They couldn't have been more different on the outside. However, on the inside, their hearts all beat to the same R&B drum. Every time they opened their mouths to sing, the mouths of anyone within earshot dropped to the floor. Success was inevitable. However, after many years of brotherhood and hit-making, personal issues among the members would pull them apart forever. Let's find out what happened to American 90s R&B group Color Me Badd. Lead singer Brian Abrams, tenor Mark Calderon, second tenor Sam Waters, and baritone Kevin K.T. Thornton formed the R&B quartet the world would come to know as Color Me Badd in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma in the mid-80s. Kevin and Brian first became friends in junior high, while Sam and Mark would get to know each other in grade school. All four came together while attending the same high school. They were also members of the school choir. Originally, the group adopted the name Take One, but later changed it to avoid confusion with the a cappella gospel group Take Six. The name they ended up with was actually taken from a horse at a racetrack that Sam found in a newspaper. However, it also fit perfectly with the unique makeup of the group. In the beginning, the members were so hungry for success that they made it their mission to meet, or at least try to meet, every musical artist that they came across. In 1987, while they were still in high school, one of those opportunities presented itself when they met Robert Bell of Kool and the Gang when the band came to town for a show. After they sang for him during a pre-show party, he introduced them to his then road manager, who would become Color Me Badd's manager, and convinced them they needed to move to New York City to secure a record deal. One afternoon a couple of years later, Kevin saw John Bon Jovi come into the movie theater where he worked. He immediately got on the phone to the other band members to get over there ASAP. They waited for him to leave the theater and then sang a song a cappella right then and there. He was so impressed that he invited the group to be his band's opening act for a performance the following night. Another chance meeting with some iconic record producers would be the catalyst to the group penning a future #1 hit. At the ASCAP Music Awards, Color Me Badd approached Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and, as usual, started singing for them on the spot. Terry gave them the suggestion that since they were a multicultural group, they should write a half-English, half-Spanish song. They took the advice and wrote their #1 smash hit, I Adore Mi Amor. Giant Records executive Cassandra Mills heard a tape of the foursome singing the song and immediately signed them to the label in August 1990. After signing the group, Cassandra asked producer Dr. Freeze for a song for the group to record for the soundtrack of the crime thriller film New Jack City. She wanted it to be similar to the 1990 hit Do Me by hip-hop R&B group Belle Biv DeVoe. Freeze came up with I Wanna Sex You Up, which would become Color Me Badd's debut single, released in March 1991. The song wasn't even intended to be a single. It had also been offered to other artists who turned it down. It became the biggest hit on the New Jack City soundtrack, peaking at #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and #1 on the R&B chart. Naturally, due to the song's popularity, their label wanted Color Me Badd to record an album quick, fast, and in a hurry. They ended up completing the task in just a couple of weeks. Their debut album, titled CMB, was released in July 1991. It would go on to become certified triple platinum in the US. Their third single, All for Love, would also become a #1 hit. Color Me Badd won numerous awards during this time, mainly courtesy of their debut single, including Best R&B Soul Single and R&B Soul Song of the Year in a group, band, or duo at the 6th Annual Soul Train Music Awards, as well as Favorite Soul R&B Single at the American Music Awards. They were also nominated for Best New Artist and Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal at the Grammy Awards. The group also delved into the acting world by making a very memorable cameo appearance on a 1992 episode of the teen drama series Beverly Hills 90210.
I'm Kelly Taylor.
It's nice to meet you, Kelly. I'm Brian Abrams. Thanks a lot.
Oh my God.
Along with their superb vocal talent, Color Me Badd also became known for their fashion style and for their choreography, as well as for being a racially diverse group, which was rare at the time. Brian is Caucasian and Native American, Mark is Mexican American, Sam is Caucasian, and Kevin is African American. Color Me Badd released a remix album titled Young, Gifted, and Bad. The remixes, in November of that year. It contained the single Forever Love, which cracked the top 20 and was also featured on the soundtrack for the 1992 romantic crime comedy drama film Mo Money. The group then went back into the studio and released their second album, Time and Chance, in November 1993. They worked with several new producers this time around, including David Foster and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. There was also an obvious, more soulful and funkier shift in their musical style. Unfortunately, music lovers didn't respond. Meanwhile, grunge and West Coast hip-hop was beginning to dominate the airwaves, making it difficult for a group like Color Me Badd to duplicate their previous success. The group re-emerged in 1996 with their third studio album, Now and Forever. Again, they had amazing producers in their corner, including Babyface, John B., and Boyz II Men's Nathan Morris. The album only produced one top 40 single, with The Earth, the Sun, the Rain. Shortly after, the group was released from their contract with Giant. However, they did go on to sign a new deal with Epic Records. Color Me Badd's fourth, and what would end up being their last studio album, titled Awakening, was released in July 1998. Both Brian and Mark hated the label's choice of the lead single, called Remember When, which failed to break into the top 40. Tommy Mottola was dead set on that particular song being the lead single, since he was in his feelings over his pending divorce from 90s pop diva Mariah Carey. During this time, it became clear to everyone that Brian had a serious drinking problem. In the beginning, he really only drank at parties. Then, one night before a show, he was beside himself over what to do about his very hoarse throat. The group's bus driver decided to fix Brian a hot toddy. Whatever was put into that drink worked a miracle. Brian sounded better than ever. That was the beginning of his pattern of always needing a drink, or several, before going on stage. Newly married Kevin then decided to leave the group to pursue a career in ministry. Sam wanted to go off on his own to write and produce. So, with only Brian and Mark left, the group officially split up. Kevin became a licensed minister and over the years served as an evangelist, youth pastor, and worship leader in Fort Worth, Texas. In 2005, he released a solo album titled Conversion. However, before being called by God, he suffered from what he said was a horrible bout with sex addiction. He also fathered 3 children during his time in Color Me Badd. He even contemplated taking his own life after a relationship with one of his baby mamas turned ugly. Sam pursued a career as a record producer, achieving great success producing for Whitney Houston, Jessica Simpson, Leona Lewis, Kelly Clarkson, and many others, while also raising his son from a previous marriage. He married for the second time to actress, singer, and former American Idol contestant Tamira Gray in 2006. Mark continued working on music with a variety of other artists. Back in 1992, he got married to Color Me Badd's former fashion stylist. In August 2000, Giant Records released the compilation album The Best of Color Me Badd. Also at this time, the group was inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. The following year, Brian released a solo album titled Welcome to Me. He also co-starred on the VH1 reality TV series Mission Man Band in 2007, which included former boy band members Jeff Timmons of 98 Degrees, Chris Kirkpatrick of NSYNC, and Rich Cronin of LFO, seeing if they could make it as a new group. The show was canceled after only 7 episodes. Color Me Badd finally made their return to the music scene in 2010. Initially consisting of only Brian and Mark, Kevin would also join later that year. 3 years after that, the group released their first new song in nearly 15 years, called Skywalkin'. However, just a few months later, Brian would announce his departure from Color Me Badd through a post on his website. Apparently, the move was triggered by some major behind-the-scenes drama going on. Towards the end of 2013, both Mark and Kevin refused to perform with Brian due to his unprofessional behavior. A couple of other artists would fill in temporarily until Brian's reappearance 2 years later. Kevin wasn't interested in reconnecting with Brian again, so he left. He then filed a lawsuit against both Brian and Mark. It was settled the following year and officially classified Kevin as no longer a member of Color Me Badd. By 2018, it was the Brian and Mark show once again. However, a violent on-stage incident between the two would change everything. During a performance at the Vine at Del Lago Resort and Casino in Tyre, New York, on July 21st, 2018, Brian walked across the stage at the end of their song, I Wanna Sex You Up, which Mark performed by himself after Brian left the stage earlier in the show, and aggressively shoved Mark to the floor. Afterwards, Brian allegedly screamed, "I'm motherfucking Color Me Bad." Later, Brian would admit to being drunk and suffering a blackout. Mark ended up going to the hospital after suffering neck and back pain. Brian was later arrested for the attack. Surprisingly, Mark and Brian would continue performing together after the incident. However, it became clear that it had to be that way, since there were contractual obligations in place that they were required to fulfill. Brian did make attempts at reconciling with Mark, and even had a custom t-shirt made with the words, "I'm sorry, Mark," which he wore during a show. The energy between them made it clear that Mark was not going to accept the apology. Then, in May 2019, Brian, Mark, and Brian's wife Kim made an appearance on the daytime talk show Dr. Phil, where numerous shocking details were exposed. The reason for the appearance on Brian's part was a cry for help concerning his alcohol addiction. Brian admitted that he is an alcoholic. He talked about using the substance to numb himself from the hurt, pain, and shame of his life experiences, even things stemming from childhood. Color Me Bad fans who followed the group years after their heyday in the 90s will know about Brian's obvious weight problem. What they may not know is that even back in high school, he had ballooned up to 400 pounds at one point. He lost the weight then because his group members assured him that making it in the music industry wasn't likely to happen if he remained at that size. Over the years, he's dealt with crippling insecurities, had 2 hip replacements, financial hardship, and numerous drunk driving charges. By 2005, he found himself working at an Oklahoma City tire store and battling 2 ex-wives in court over allegedly owing thousands of dollars in back child support. One last disgraceful topic of conversation was Brian's tendency to put his hands on his wife, admitting that he had been physically abusive to her many times throughout their relationship. She's left several times, only to return hoping he would change. Mark also spoke his piece, stating that he's been aware of Brian's drinking problem for a long time, but things got exponentially worse over the last couple of years. He revealed on the show that they were up for a residency spot in Las Vegas at the time of the 2018 shoving incident. However, after that happened, the opportunity went up in smoke. He also said that he had a restraining order taken out on Brian, and even though people saw them performing together after the incident, he actually hasn't spoken to Brian since that day. That would further explain why they were not seen on the set at the same time during the taping of the talk show. Like with many of his other guests, Dr. Phil offered Brian help. He decided to take it. Sam hasn't been a part of the band since '98, but has arguably had the most success since the split. He continues to be a successful record producer and songwriter, and his marriage to Tamira is still going strong. They welcomed their second child together on August 16, 2021. In 2019, Kevin and short-term fill-in Color Me Bad member Martin Kimber from R&B group AZ1 came together as KT and Martin and embarked on a tour. As their contractual obligations dictated, Mark and Brian continued to perform together as Color Me Bad throughout all of 2019. However, in July, Brian slapped Mark with a lawsuit over the ability of Mark to use the band's name in his ongoing solo career. Mark released his first solo single called It's Like Good Sex in May 2019. He followed it up 1 year later with Cookies and Cream. He also continued to perform under the name Color Me Bad with 2 other men on stage that appear to serve more as dancers and occasional backup singers than actual members. Brian and his wife Kim celebrated 15 years of marriage in July 2020. To commemorate his 2-year anniversary of sobriety, he posted a celebratory photo on his social media in May 2021. Also in the same month, he made another declaration that he was done with Color Me Bad forever. Several months later in August, it would be formally announced that Brian had reached an undisclosed settlement with his former bandmate to sell the Color Me Bad trademark. During this time, Brian teased on his Facebook and Instagram accounts that new solo music was on the way. 2021 also marks the 30th anniversary of Color Me Bad's debut album, CMB. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you won't miss any future videos. See you next time!